On March 14th, the Indian government increased the central excise duty on petrol from 7 rupees to 10 rupees and from 1 rupee to 4 rupees on diesel. This was followed by amendments in the Finance Bill 2020 that allowed the government to increase the maximum leviable excise by 8 rupees, from 10 rupees to 18 rupees in the case of petrol and from 4 rupees to 12 rupees in the case of diesel. Since then, Rajasthan increased value-added tax on petrol and diesel by 4% and Karnataka, Maharashtra and West Bengal increased it by 1 rupee. This comes at a time when crude oil is at a 16-year low. So why are the central and various state governments increasing taxes on fuel instead of passing on the benefit to consumers? And why is this a good thing? Let's find out. It increases revenues for cash-strapped governments. Over the past year or so, the central government and many state governments have been running short on cash due to lower than expected tax revenues due to a slowdown in economic growth, coupled with central government's attempts to bridge the fiscal deficit gap from 5.9% in 2012 to 3.4% in 2019. Further, due to the coronavirus pandemic, there is expected to be a further slowdown in economic growth which will lead to a lower tax collection. At such a time, these taxes are a breather for the central and state government. The increase in excise on petrol and diesel alone is expected to fetch the central government 39,000 crore rupees. It is important to note that the current depression in crude oil prices is due to a price war between Russia and OPEC, the Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries. These low rates may not prevail for long and may soon begin rebounding gradually. If petrol and diesel rates in India were tied solely to the price of crude oil and were allowed to move freely, the volatility in rates of petrol and diesel may alarm citizens. And in the future, any possible sudden uptick in rates may lead to queuing and hoarding at petrol pumps and create an atmosphere of distrust. The cost of crude oil is only a part of the cost of fuel. Additional costs are associated with refining of this crude oil. India has recently switched to BS6 emission standards, which results in oil marketing companies or OMCs such as Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil and Hindustan Petroleum incurring significant costs to refine crude oil. Though the price increase has not benefited OMCs directly, the point here is that savings on fuel costs due to lowering of crude oil prices are dampened by the refining and marketing and administration costs associated, while these same costs amplify it on an increase in the price of crude oil. Another point is, it may be several months before OMCs receive tankers with a cheaper fuel and are currently selling fuel acquired at higher rates. Though technically they can adjust this by pricing fuel accordingly to crude oil rates and sell petrol and diesel for low rates now and charge a higher rate when crude oil prices rise, though they would be selling the fuel acquired at the current low rate. This process strains cash flows of OMCs and may lead to liquidity and cash reserve issues. Further, during the lockdown, the demand for petrol and diesel has fallen by around 2/3. This translates to a higher fixed cost per unit sold for OMCs. Though January 2020 saw an inflation of 7.59%, the highest inflation since April 2014, the inflation since has come down to 6.58 for February 2020 and 5.93% predicted for March, well within RBI's target band. Though this has been on the higher end in view of the last 6 years' inflation, historically India has been used to much higher inflation. Further, inflation is arguably going to see a continued downfall as purchasing power with people and disposable income decreases. For these reasons, an increase in the price of fuel will not drastically affect inflation. Further, though food and other commodity prices will be affected by fuel price increases, the effect will be diminished or nullified due to inflation trends and overall decreasing cost of transportation as percentage of price of goods. This move can also be said to affect car and vehicle sales. However, it is widely agreed that the reasons for diminishing vehicle sales is saturation of market, high tax rates on vehicles, and low disposable income with the people. Though fuel is a largely inelastic product whose demand changes very little with change in price, an increase in fuel prices may compel, even if a small, a group of commuters to more economical and eco-friendly options such as carpools and public transportation. It will also help a small part of the traffic congestion plaguing our cities. Despite the increase in tariffs, petrol and diesel rates have fallen. For instance, in Bangalore, where excise and VAT increases both have taken place, the rate of petrol has dropped 6.4% from 78.56 rupees to 73.55 rupees in the past 3 months. Similarly, the price of diesel has fallen 7.7% from 71.48 rupees to 65.96 rupees. This is the single most important point. In the fiscal year 2019, India paid around 8.8 lakh crore rupees to foreign nations like Iraq, Iran, and Saudi Arabia for crude oil. This is money flowing out of the country. Even if this money was gifted for free to Indians, it would be much more economically sound than letting it flow out of the country, as Indians would presumably spend the money in India and help churn the Indian economy. Further, this large crude oil bill also destabilizes the Indian rupee, as most of these payments have to be made in US dollars or in other foreign currencies. The aim of reduction in national fuel import bill has been evident in many previous moves of the current government, from FASTag to electrification of railways to electric vehicle subsidies to push for metro systems across India. This move to increase fuel prices may not significantly dent fuel consumption, but every liter of petrol that goes unbought translates to money retained in India rather than going to foreign hands. So these were some of the reasons why I believe the move by the central and several state governments to increase taxes on petrol and diesel should be welcomed. Of course, this is based on current situations and these can change anytime. Debates are always welcome. Please let me know in the comments why you agree or disagree with me. Also, let me know of topics that you would like me to cover in future videos. And while you're there, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel. So stay safe, don't hoard and go Corona.